Well, 20 favourites have won in 30 runnings of the Ormonde Stakes over 13 furlongs, and there have been 10 odds-on chances. Let's have a look at them now. In the last 3 years, Mountain Kingdom and Rakaposhi King won, but in 88, Sir Harry Lewis was third to the 20-to-1 chance. Mr. Pintips, who won by 20 lengths, he's the outsider at 16-to-1 here today. Henry Cecil's Critique was beaten 4 lengths by 6 Mile Bottom in 82. Ninisky won 10 years ago, and Attica Melian Primera failed for Noel Merlis. And among other successful odds-on chances was Indiana in 1965. Now, Indiana won the previous year's St. Ledger, and along with Crow in 78, is the only Ledger winner to take the 13-furlong Ormonde, which now Michelozzo is trying to do, and the early show goes 7-4 on Michelozzo. It's then 4-1 ALBADR. This is the early betting. 5 BRAASHEE, 7 by Charter, 8 Top Class, and 16-1 against Mr. Pintips. But can Michelozzo now become the third horse to win the St. Ledger and the Ormonde? It's 7-4 on that he'll do it.
And that, unless I'm much mistaken, is Michelozzo. Yes, there he is. Recognise them by their backsides, but number 1, Michelozzo, who, as we said at the start of the programme, is something of an endangered species these days. He's an English classic winner who campaigns on as a 4-year-old rather than go to stud. And make no mistake, when the ground is soft, as it was for the rerouted St. Ledger at Ayr last September, this is some performer.
A furlong and a half to go, and Michelozzo goes 2 clear now. Sapience and Rosie turn and Terry one under half pressure, coming inside the final furlong, and Michelozzo looks to have taken the race. He has done. He's going 4-5 clear, a big race for the places. But it's Michelozzo who storms clear to win the 213th St. Ledger easily at the line. Michelozzo has it.
And that was remarkably good form when you think that Rosie Turn and Terrymon and Sapience were beaten as easily as that by this fellow Michelozzo. He was only beaten once last year on very much firmer ground in the Princess of Wales at Newmarket, when Carroll House, later to win the Arc de Triomphe, and Satis beat him 3 lengths. But otherwise, Michelozzo did absolutely nothing wrong. In fact, he's done very little wrong in his life. We don't know whether he'll act round these turns, but he's a not very big, beautifully balanced horse. I wouldn't say there'd be any problem.
No, he hasn't, to me, really filled out all that much from 3 to 4. And certainly one or two of these others, BRAASHEE, ALBADR, are certainly a lot bigger individuals, but he's got plenty of ability, this horse, and I'd imagine they'll be looking to try and win some decent 1.5-mile races with him. He's won the Ledger, but that always isn't the best credentials in the world when you're trying to stand a horse at stud. Normally they're a little bit on the slow side. Well, that doesn't apply to this fella, because he's actually began last year winning over a mile. Anyway, we've moved quickly on there to the 1 filly in the race. That's By Charter. And John, she's a really good sort of filly, this.
Yes, she's a daughter of the great Time Charter, one of my great favourites when she was running. And by the Derby winner Shirley Heights, By Charter ran on this course. The last time she ran was in the Cheshire Oaks at this meeting. And we can see that in a moment. But that was By Charter's last race. Here she is, taking the lead, coming into the straight in the Cheshire Oaks. And at this stage, you'd think that she'd be taking an awful lot of catching. In fact, though, Braeswick in the Moller colours, which as a matter of fact she was one of the last fillies to wear, comes past By Charter and wins in the end pretty comfortably. But don't forget that Braeswick went on to win the Sun Chariot Stakes, so this was pretty good form.
Yeah, she's good filly, this. And if I remember right, yeah, I was even lucky enough to ride her work just before she actually ran in that race. But that's the filly that finished second to her.
And I sent a message to try and find out from Michael Stout or Jimmy Scott, his travelling head lad, what had been wrong with By Charter. And the answer is that nothing had been wrong with her, but she just has been a filly who needed a lot of time, and so Michael Stout, like the great trainer he is, has given her that time. Well, this is Top Class, who was also trained by a great trainer, Clive Britton, and last year Clive, who was nothing if not ambitious, sent Top Class to Australia, and he ran 2 tremendous races in the Manion Cup, a handicap, and then the Tancred International. He was placed in both of those within a week, He then came back and was placed in the Hardwick Stakes at Royal Ascot, and then ran a tremendous race against Nash 1 in the King George. So he's really done some work and travelling.
I just think he's hardly been out of his suitcase, this horse. It must be like going down, just down the road coming to Chester for him, and he's a credit to Clive Britton, and he looks really well. You wouldn't think that he'd had a race at all, never mind been all over the world, galloping and running well too.
Actually, Clive told me that he'd done himself so well that he thought he'd taken a little bit longer to come to hand this spring. He thought he might need this race, although he's very hopeful that he'll run well.
He's always been very consistent as well, top class. Well, as he makes his way down to the start, let's have a look at the betting.
And top class, easy in the market, 9-1, open up at 6s. Michelotto, the 11-8 on favourite. ALBADR is 9-2 from 4-1. And BRAASHEE, 11-2 from 6s. By Charter, 9-1 from 8-1. And the extreme outsider is Mr. Pintips at 33s, all quoted for the Ormonde Stakes.
Now here's one I know you think a lot of, John. ALBADR, the mount of Willie Carson. He's a 5-year-old by Arctic Turn. The reason why he's 5, or we haven't seen that much of him, is he broke his off-4 as a 3-year-old, had a stress fracture of the off-4. But since then, he's won a good race at Newbury, and didn't run that badly behind Brush Aside in the John Porter this season.
Yeah, that race you were talking about at Newbury, John, was the Aston Park Stakes, and he had Ibn Bay behind him that day. And he really quickened up nicely there in the closing stages. Then he didn't run again right until October, when the ground was bottomless at Newbury, and race won by Sesame. And he then, as you said, he had his one run this year behind Brush Aside, did well to finish second. That form, forget about the form being a flop, because Brush Aside's been proved that he's chipped a knee, which is a reason for his dismal performance at Newmarket last week. This is a lovely looking horse. He's a really big sort, plenty of strength about him, and with that one run under his belt, hopefully he'll start repaying some of Robert Armstrong's patience in him.
Yes, certainly a lovely, lovely looking horse, and that Brush Aside, as you said, chipped a bone in his knee, made me feel ashamed of some of the things I said and thought about it when he ran so badly at Newmarket. Appeared to. Let's see, one of the best handicappers in training. It ought not to be an insult to call a horse a handicapper, and this horse BRAASHEE won the enormously valuable handicap on Festival Day at Ascot, beat Free Sweater a length and a half that day, and it'll be fascinating to see how he does now in a group race. I'm personally very keen on doing away with Group 3 races and having more valuable limited handicaps in their place, because I believe that they give better entertainment and are just as good a test of a horse's merit. And this is a horse of very considerable merit. He won the Newbury Autumn Cup and then that huge handicap at Ascot, and he wasn't at all disgraced in the Champion Stakes, his last run.
The other thing he's got going for him is that he's by Sadler's Wells, and it wouldn't be the biggest surprise if he's yet one more winner for him. John, what news is there down in the ring?
Not so much down in the ring, Gretish Jockey. You remember after the St. Ledger, one or two bookmakers actually made Michelotto favourite for the Prix Arc de Triomphe. Do you remember that? And it was put in about 5-1 favourite. Well, here you can bet 5-4 on, though 11-8 on is the general price. If it wins, you will say an exceptional value price for the class horse is then 5-1 ALBADR, 11-2 BRAASHEE, 9-1 Bar, that's top class and by Charter, and double carpet, Mr. Pintips. But Michelotto, 11-8 on. Quickly. 5-4 on.
Take 9 top class.
And they take a 9 top classes, 8-1. What value is Michelotto?
Only horse we didn't get a mention for is Mr. Pintips, who won the race a couple of years ago. And empty stalls herald the departure of 6 top-class horses for this Group 3 race. And it's top class that leads as they come through the first furlong. From Michelotto in second place, 2 lengths behind him, is ALBADR, followed by BRAASHEE and Mr. Pintips on the inside of By Charter. So, it's top class leading, setting a sensible gallop to Michelotto in second place. Actually, Steve's quite pleased that he doesn't have to do the donkey work on him. And then back in third is BRAASHEE, fourth is ALBADR. That's a horse with a noseband. and By Charter on the outside of Mr. Pintips, also racing with the nose back. So they make the turn into the home straight for the first time. And it's Top Class and Basil Marcus, clear by 2 to 3 lengths to Michelozzo. And they race up past the enclosures with the Top Class. Bandaged in front, leading by 3 lengths now. Michelozzo's in second. By Charter's making ground on the outside of Michelozzo to go into second place as they pass the winning post with a circuit to go. Top Class the leader from By Charter in second, and Michelozzo and BRAASHEE and ALBADR and Mr. Pintips held up at the back. At the rear, they've got just over 7 furlongs to race now. And Top Class leading from By Charter in second and Michelozzo in third. And then comes BRAASHEE and ALBADR. And Mr. Pintips the back marker, 3/4 of a mile to go. And it's still Top Class leading from By Charter. And Michelozzo holds the position next to the rails. And BRAASHEE and ALBADR. Little change then as they make their way past the point of departure. And it's Top Class leading still from By Charter. And then Michelozzo. And BRAASHEE and ALBADR now being asked to make his move on the outside. Mr. Pintips close enough as they race down to the 3 furlong marker. About 100 metres to go to get there. It's Top Class in the lead. And they're all queuing up behind to take him on, and they're jockeying for position. And Michelozzo just caught a bit flat-footed as BRAASHEE takes the initiative as they come down towards the 2, and the tempo goes on. And it's BRAASHEE and ALBADR by 2 lengths to Top Class and Michelozzo. And Mr. Pintips staying on well, but as they turn into the home stretch, just over a furlong to go. Holding up position next to the rails, BRAASHEE. Wide is ALBADR, Mr. Pintips and Top Class. Michelozzo is outpaced, and it's BRAASHEE as they hit the furlong pole. Clear by 2 lengths, ALBADR can find no more. Top Class is staying on again, and Mr. Pintips and Michelozzo running on again very late, but up towards the line. It's BRAASHEE who holds it, and a 3-way photo for second. Michelozzo and Top Class just nose out ALBADR from a place. Then Mr. Pintips, and last of all,